let's talk about the physical aspects. Let's talk about Mama Nature and how we can use all of the things that we all love to incorporate as part of the root chakra. So I'm guessing you guys all went through this booklet, and if you didn't, don't stress about it too much. You can obviously go in whenever you need to. But get your little pens out, because I'm going to give you a beautiful little blend for your essential oils. And I'm going to tell you my 2 favorite Bach flower remedies to use. So belonging, root chakra, root energy center. I'm going to share with you a little bit about how the root chakra with us ladies is not really that important, although it is psychosomatically, but energetically for the feminine, it doesn't actually play a part in our energy body. Our energy body's root is not only the root, but it's actually our sacral. But I will tell you more about that in a second. So you will have a booklet. There's a lot of resources. You have the whole Rituals for Grace booklet in there. And there is the meditation, which is just so beautiful. So when we're looking at using our essential oils and our flower remedies, we want to do, we can use them in 3 ways. Firstly, blend the essential oils, use them like you would normally, whether it be in a diffuser or in a spritz bottle, right, little spritzer, or a roller. Your blend will look anything like this. You will have more patchouli. So I'm going to give you a number of drops, but remember, you can double it or halve it, depending on the size of your container, whether it be small room, big room, whatever. So 4 drops patchouli, 4 drops tangerine, 2 drops myrrh, and 2 drops of vetiver. I'm actually lathered in it right now. It is so yummy. All right, so what we're going to do with this as a topical application is twofold. Firstly, we're going to look at 2 acupressure points. Considering that belonging is for overcoming fear, grounding, earthing, and restoring your sense of self within the whole. Okay, so you want to remember that you are part of the collective, basically, that you belong. That's why it's called belonging. You belong, regardless of your tribe or your family or your workplace, like regardless of those communities that you subscribe to and live your life in, you belong to humanity. You belong on this planet. Sometimes we can forget that. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get to the point where I'm like, you know, especially when you're going through a transition, and I want you to constantly reflect back to, like, in other things that you've done in your life, like you're going through this transition, and sometimes you just get to the point where you're in between phases. This is when you need to learn how to ground and center and remind yourself that you belong. I actually turned my myrrh upside down. Yeah, I turned my myrrh upside down. Super sticky, super viscous. So, and what I've also found is that it not only coagulates, but it creates like a crust around the orifice. And so mine's actually really thin. I don't know if you can see, it's like shaky, like I shake it around. Can you hear it? So I turn it upside down and do what my mum taught me to do with the nail polish. Did you guys do this with the nail polish to like loosen it up? Rub it between your hands. Yeah. The other thing you can do is use a dropper bottle to get it out. And also, if you're going to be using it topically, you can, you know, remove it, put the coconut oil in, and then shake it up. Run under warm water, sit in it. Sit it in warm water, but you can actually sit on it. It's going to warm it up. So the idea, and the idea is just to warm it up, really. Yeah. All right. So lift your arm up. It doesn't matter which one. Everybody, I pledge. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to teach you some acupressure points here. All right. So take 4 fingers and then take 4 fingers again. Okay. Now turn your palm to face you and look down at your forearm. Yeah. This is what we call P6. And you're going to place your oil on P6. Okay, your oil blend. 1 oil, 2 oil, doesn't matter. You can just use it as an acupressure point if you want as well. Then you're going to look towards your wrist, in between P6 and your wrist crease. And that's a H pressure point. So you're going to pop oil there too. So in and out. It's difficult to show you here because the radius moves, but this way. Okay. Now, I don't want you to be like too concerned about getting the points exactly right. In your Rituals for Grace book, it shows you the exact points. Okay. And then what you're going to do is rub it. So you're going to activate the energy. So whether you've got 2 fingers, so I use the 2, the index and the middle finger and the thumb, and I literally press it into those 2 pressure points. I can press it down, I can tap it. I could tap one side and then the other, right? I could rub it and then rub it. And so what I like about the bigger movements is that you don't have to be so specific, right? If you were doing acupuncture, you would obviously need to be more specific, but acupressure gives you a little bit more room for movement. And then you may want to talk through the affirmations. So I am grounded, I am safe, I am loved, I belong, I belong, I belong. It's at the back of your booklet. Okay. I find this really helpful, the tapping and the speaking of the affirmation. And you will notice in your body if it feels uncomfortable. So you're like, I belong, and you're like, oh, I don't belong. Well, there's your trigger, and that's when you can go back and journal about it. Yeah, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. And in your booklet, it gives you exactly what these pressure points are all about and why we use these particular ones. All right, next one is just above your, can you see here? Just above your ankle, okay, on the inner foot. Again, this is K3. Oops. Yeah, just give it a bit of a, what you're doing ideally is waking up the energy. So the idea with this, okay, is that energy wants to flow. It wants to move. Sometimes it can slow down because of a constriction. Perhaps there's been an emotion that has gotten stuck in your body, has lodged itself somewhere in your meridian or your energetic pathways. And so remember that if there's any bottleneck, then the energy doesn't move freely through that, and it gets kind of like, it just slows down. So the whole point of this is to literally wake the energy up. You know, what you're doing with myrrh, right? You're just warming it up. You're just getting the energy flowing a little bit. You're tapping it out. and you're activating through using your conscious brain, using a mantra or an affirmation to let that energy start to disperse. You're just kind of like loosening it up a little bit. Sometimes, it's really annoying, I don't know how to kill that. Sometimes you may notice that the energy is has been stuck there for quite some time, and depending on what the energetic block has been caused by, this is where you may start to manifest certain symptoms. So, you know, you could have an outpour of anxiety or depression, crying, sadness, nausea. All of these things may come up for you when you're doing emotional release work. And so take care of yourself through that. You know, go for, hi buddy, go for the therapeutic applications of remedies that you would normally use. So for nausea, go digestion, you know, like still reach for the things that are going to help you physically move through those, because that's not going to stop you from experiencing the release. You've already set that emotion. A lot of people will say like, oh, but mustn't I just feel the nausea? Like if I've released it, do I need to feel it? Well, the energy is already moving. You're feeling the nausea. So you can allow yourself some reprieve by sipping on some digestion or some peppermint tea. It's not going to suppress the emotion. The other thing that I love doing is in my spritzes is using that same aromatic blend, and then I may put a drop or 4 of Bach flower remedies. And the 2 that I would choose for the base are oak and willow. Oak is to rebuild strength. Firm foundation, strong house, right? And willow is to take you out of that feeling of sulky pants, that sulky pants feeling. Quite often, we're not strong enough to pull ourselves out of that story. And so these 2 coupled together are really beautiful. So you may put them in a spritzer and spritz them around you and take a deep breath in. Or what I have really loved doing lately is just using a spritzer, right, with water and the flower remedy and spritzing it under my tongue. Done. With flower remedies, you could drop it directly into your water. So you can have 1 drop in a glass of water, sipping it all day. You could have no more than 4 drops in a liter water. You know, 1 drop is enough. It's really not like, you can't overdose on it, but the whole point is to use the energetics of that flower to support you to get over it. It's the energy that you're calling in, the energy of the flower. And I can say with my hand on my heart that flower remedies work quicker than almost anything that I've ever done energetically. And I don't know why, I can't explain it, but there's something about them that just move the energy really quickly, to the point that I wake up in a funk, decipher what it is that I'm experiencing, have the flower remedy, and then a couple of hours later forget that I was even in a funk in the first place. This has happened again and again. It continues to happen in my life. The biggest challenge that I have when it comes to flower remedies is remembering to take them. It's the remembering. So you will often see my house, like my flower remedies are out, because if I put them away in the cupboard, I forget. I forget about them. How embarrassing is that? I'm a practitioner. Like, it's one of the things that I should think about the most. But it's the same thing with essential oils, right? I don't know about you, but I was always taught, like, put your oils out, put your oils out, put your oils out. This is where you're going to use them. It's the same thing with flower remedies. Put them out. This is why my crystals are out, because it reminds me to use them, right? Anything that you want to learn how to do, put it in front of you so you can see it. My biggest suggestion to you over the next few weeks is like, make it pretty. Put your flower remedies out, like make it pretty, make it inviting. Get to the point where you're like, oh, I want to use you. You know, oh, my oils are there, I want to use them. What I have done with my oils is I've bought little stickers, red stickers, and I've put the red on the, actually I've now opened up new bottles, so these don't have the stickers, but I put the red on the belonging blends so that I always know that these go together. And I've put the red on my flower remedies too. Yeah. And the idea there is that when you're getting to the point where you feel stuck and you know emotionally it belongs to your base, then you can, without necessarily going and researching it if you're in a hurry, you can create a blend for yourself just knowing that it's fear or that it's a feeling of ungroundedness, flightiness, all up in your head, over analytical. Remember, you want to take it from the head and you want to bring it all the way back down into the physical body. If you look at the oils and their emotional properties, vetiver is the oil of centering and descent. Patchouli is the oil of physicality, right? So we're using these oils, and myrrh is the oil of the mother, Gaia, earth. And I added tangerine because you have to add something citrusy. Like you have to bring, like the citrus really does allow for the heaviness to lift. So movement practices. We want to get into the body. We want to move the body as much as possible. So we've got this physicality, and I'm going to take you through a couple of movement practices, which is super fun. So firstly, the root is tribal. What do you think of when you think tribal? This connection with the ground, the earth, the legs. Okay, so we've got like this really tribal feeling when we think about the root. So you're going to be called to move to tribal music. Drums, bass, beats. There is a playlist in your portal called Drums. It's really groovy. I want you to experiment with like moving your feet, smashing them into the ground. Think about a tribal way of moving. Okay. Now, because for us women are like, if you think about indigenous tribes when they dance, I think about Africans, right? And the Zulus, they're always like, they're like moving their feet up, right? And then they pressing it into the ground. So they pick it up and then they hit it back down. And the women do this too, right? But they have more of like a sway in the hips. Okay. And so the reason for that is because the root for women is also in the sacral. So they're connected. So you may feel like you want to move your hips a little bit, okay, which is totally fine. This is part of it. But I want you, it's a 45-minute playlist. You will sweat. You will get tired. You will get to the point where you feel like you don't really know what you're doing. You're going to pump the tunes, whether it's in your ears or in a sound system, and you're going to move your body. The legs need to be active. You need to pump the legs, right? Use the thighs and move the hips if you feel it's necessary. I'm going to say 20 minutes minimum. You may even get to 20 minutes and be like, meh, I need more. Yeah, there's some slow tracks, slower drums, and then there's some really good ones. Okay. Now, as you're practicing this movement, I want you to notice a couple of things. I want you to notice how you feel, what you're thinking about. I want you to, because nobody's watching and no one gives a shit about what you actually look like, just remember that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you look like. This is really an experience for you to get to the point where you are hearing something and your body is responding to it. My neighbors already love this shit. And it just, it reminds me of my younger days, like at festivals, like, where they had these live bands, and like in the middle of like the two sets, they would just have like these bongo drums, and that's when it went off for me, because I love the drums so much. I think they're just such incredible instruments. So I want you just to get to the point where you are feeling the instrument in your body. Yeah. You may even want to listen to the songs without moving and notice how they make you feel. What thoughts do they bring up? What do they make you want to do? Yeah, and if you don't want to share your experience with us, that's fine. But if you do, let us know how you go. It's really, really good stuff. Has anybody ever done like these silent dance parties before? Ever been to a silent dance party where there's like, you've just got earphones on and you're listening to the music? It's actually not out in the air, it's on your, so you go to like a house and there's no music at all, but everyone's like jiving to the music because they've got on their headphones. So remember, this is not really about showmanship. This is not about what you look like. Please don't feel like you need to do anything other than just have the experience. And whatever comes up for you, let it come up. Cry, fall in a heap, go to sleep, vomit. It doesn't matter. Just let it all come to the surface. Then I want you to do these 3 poses, yoga poses, when you're done with your movement practice. It's in your booklet. They're called locust pose, also known as Shalabhasana, head to knee pose, also known as Janu Shirshasana, and Shavasana, corpse pose. So I'm going to demonstrate them. There are pictures, little cartoon pictures in your book, but I just want to demonstrate it so that you have it on the recording and that you've been taught how to do it. So you dance, 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 da, 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 da. Then you're going to do locust pose. 2 ways to do locust pose. Locust pose is a back bend. Now, when people think about back bending, okay, they think about crunching through the back. That's not what a back bend is. A back bend is a lengthening of the spine. So I'm going to show you what it looks like seated so that you can actually see what the spine does. So you can do locust pose seated as well, because remembering it is about an extension of the spine. A dumping in through the back is this. Do you see how I'm like, look at my back, look at the shape of my back. It's just kind of dumping backwards. Instead of lifting up, chest lifts, and that's naturally occurring back bend. Do you see the difference there? I wasn't looking. Like that, crunching, and then lifting, lengthening. It's almost like there's one that lifts up this way and the other one just goes backwards. So if you do that on the floor, okay, which is traditionally how locust pose is taught, you can place a blanket or a pillow down, because if it's really uncomfortable on the fronts of your hips, okay, let's move these little guys here. We're all going to do the seated variation in 2 seconds, so you may want to make yourself comfortable as well. So as I lie down on my belly, okay, my my feet are close together. This is the traditional version, the feet together. But I find that jams my back, so I keep my feet hip distance apart. Okay, what I'm doing right now is a back bend. I'm up on my elbows. It's a less active back bend. I'm not using the muscles in my back. I'm actually propping myself up on my elbows. But when I'm in the full locust pose, what I'm doing here is I'm pressing the tops of my hands down into the mat, tops of the feet down. I'm lifting my knees, which means that my legs are active. And then from here, I'm lifting forward and up. So I'm lifting forward and up, activating through the back body, and then releasing. And then activating the thighs, activating through the back body, and releasing. I'm not jutting my chin out, kinking through the back of the neck. I'm keeping the chin tucked in so that the back of my neck is long. And I'm activating through the mid-back, lengthening my tailbone down and lifting up from here. Okay? So feel free to try that out. Try it out and tell me where you feel it. And I'm going to talk you through the energetics of it. If you don't have any space and you want to sit and do it, I'm going to talk you through it regardless. So if you're seated, you may want to bring your hands behind your back and interlace your fingers. And if you're lying down, you can also do this. You can bring your hands behind your back. Now, if you're lying down and your hands are interlaced behind your back, you're actually going to find this a little bit more challenging, which is why I generally teach hands down, palms facing up. And so I want you to notice what happens when you cup your palms together and when you release your palms apart. So cupping them together and releasing apart. Notice, where do you feel it in through the back? Shoulders? And if you release it, it kind of relaxes through the arms a bit. So notice there's no good, there's no bad. It's just some people really dig having their palms together because it creates more of a stretch across the front of the shoulders. And others really like the feeling of it being a bit more relaxed. So regardless of how your hands are positioned, I want you to draw your hands downwards towards your tailbone, lift them up off your butt, tuck your chin in and lift your chest up to the sky, keeping your pelvis in neutral. So you're not dumping in through the back and arching the spine. You're keeping your pelvis neutral and lifting up through the chest. Now stay there, rolling the shoulders back and down, and feel an opening through the heart space. Stay there for 3 rounds of breath. Keep your chin tucked. Yes. Now, I want you to bring your attention into your heart, rolling the shoulders back and down even more. And take a wild guess as to why I'm asking you to do Shalabhasana, a heart opener, a back bend, after you have gone wild on the dance floor. Why do you think I'm going to ask you to open up your heart after you've released your energy in a dancing pose, a dancing movement practice? One more breath, and then come out whenever you're ready. To release anything that you are holding in, right? Because when the shoulders are hunched, what are you in? Protective mode, right? You're protecting your heart. But when your chest is open and your heart's open, you're vulnerable. Yeah, so this is a practice in itself in teaching you that vulnerability, teaching you how to really open up right? So if you've had an emotional reaction or you may be feeling amazing after your dance practice, it would be like the best feeling in your life, still open up through the heart space. Feel into your heart, 3 breaths up, release. Have 3 breaths up, release. Okay? The one thing that I would be quite careful of is just this. See here, I'm exposing my throat. I want you to protect through the throat. Okay? There are protective locks in your body that we activate when we're going through certain poses to maintain energetic integrity. There are 3 locks in the body. The first one is at the root lock, which is what we're focusing on now. The second one is in through the solar plexus, a little bit in through the sacral. And the third one is in through the throat. Okay, root, belly, and throat. In Sanskrit, they're called Muladhara, which is Muladhara, lock, root lock. And they're called bandhas, seals. Second one, you don't need to know this. It's just if you read it somewhere, then you'll be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. The second one is Uddiyana Bandha, which means flying upwards. It's a drawing in and up of the belly. And the third one, which I'm talking about now, is called Jalandhara Bandha, which just means the throat lock. So you want to draw the chin in as we lift the chest up to conceal the energy in at the throat. We don't want the energy to go up towards the brain. Second one, Janu Shishasana, head to knee pose. So we've opened up through the heart. Now we're going to close it down again. Okay? Head to knee. You can do this on a raised seat. So put something under your butt. Extend one leg long and bend the other leg into the inner thigh. The traditional teaching will have you put your heel to the pubic bone. The reason I teach it towards the inner thigh is 2 reasons. Firstly, I want you to keep your hips parallel to the front. If your heel is into the pubic bone, this opens up one of the hips and it creates an uneven seat. And that just kind of, it's an imbalance. But yoga was traditionally taught by men. And so this is just a little bit more conservative for women who generally have open hips, right? So foot to inner thigh, press the foot in, and the thigh in, twist the body to the extended leg, keep your spine long and fold forward from the hips, either placing your hand on your shin or your ankle, or if you can, your toes. Head to knee pose. Janu Shishasana. We are not collapsing in through the spine. We're lifting up through the chest and extending through the spine. Now, here's the really cool thing about forward folds is that the minute you allow your brain to press into the front of your skull, it activates a part of your brain that tells your body to relax, to rest. Whenever you're tired, what do? Now you lie on your desk. You put your head down. It's the body's natural response. So you're activating the glands in the front of the head that tell the body it's time to relax and rest. So we're trying to reenact that feeling in this forward fold, or any forward fold, to be honest with you. And you can do that pose on both sides. Head to knee pose. There's a slight twist in the pose as well. So you're not folding directly forward. You're twisting a little bit to the side, and this is going to neutralize your spine. Now, energetically, because that's why we're all here, your locust pose is energetically opening up your heart. Your head to knee pose is opening up the back of the heart. You're twisting, and also you have your 2 snakes that go up around the spine. You Ida, Pingala, yin and yang. By twisting a little bit, you're neutralizing which of those 2 energies is prominent. you twist to the right, and then you twist to the left. You're kind of just like rebalancing those energies. And they're moving up and down the spine, the Sushumna Nadi, central channel. Okay. And then the final posture is corpse pose, Shavasana. This is preparing you for death. Morbid but true. This is my cue to leave the pillow. So the idea here is that all the work that we are doing is preparing us to disassociate from our ego. Sorry, guys. It's teaching us how not to be attached to our ego. We are not this body. We are not this mind. We are not of this earth. We are something so much bigger than this. And so after you've gotten into your body and allowed your body to do its thing and shaken it up and then twisted it out and allowed this energetic balance and harmony to come into place, you rest. Because you remember that even though you have a body, even though you're of this planet, even though you're here having a human experience, you are not your body. Now, you're not your body. So Shavasana is that representation. It's a complete surrendering to the fact that you are having an experience in a vehicle, but you are not it. And so 10 minutes minimum, Shavasana. Palms up, gesture of receiving, feet naturally fall out. You're lying on your back. If you have any lower back concerns or tight hamstrings, pop a pillow under your knees just to prop them up a little bit. You may even want to lift your neck up with a support just to give that, that little curve some support. Maybe an eye pillow, maybe a blanket over you. Even though you'll be sweating, you will get cold if you lay there for 10 minutes or more. You may want to put some beautiful music on, perhaps from, any of the meditation tracks that we've listened to. And there's also the meditation from Rituals for Grace, which you may listen to. It's a 30-minute track, so perfect for Shavasana. So what we're doing in this movement practice is we are associating with the body, getting into our bodies, out of our brains, into our bodies, and then surrendering to whatever's come up to allow it to rejig, allowing the energy to settle in again. Yeah. I would do it in the order that I've given you. I would do the oils. You may even want the Bach flower afterwards, after everything. You put it in your water. You could even have the oils, either put them on you on these points or in the diffuser or whatever you want. Whatever you want. Let's talk a little bit about how the female energy system is a little bit different to the male.